Hey guys, welcome back to For the Classical Guitarist. In this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about Sunburst by Andrew York. So let's get started. So in this series, I'm going to be talking to you about the background to the piece as well as some elements in the composition that I think are interesting. So the first thing that I want to say is this piece debuted on Andrew York's CD, Perfect Sky, which was released in 1986. This piece, I'm guessing, was originally meant to be written for the steel string guitar because that's how he played it on this record. And every other track done on Perfect Sky was either recorded on a normal nylon string guitar or an electric guitar. But no other track was recorded on the steel string acoustic guitar. So the same year that Andrew York released Perfect Sky, he was actually doing a concert in Spain where he was playing Sunburst, and in the audience happened to be John Williams, not the composer. After the concert, John Williams was so impressed by Sunburst and how much he liked the piece that he asked Andrew York for the music, even though at the time Andrew York didn't even have it written down. In 1989, John Williams not only included the piece on his new CD, Spirit of the Guitar, but it also happened to be the opening track. Now, it's said that because John Williams was such a prominent figure in the guitar back then, that this gave Andrew York the credibility as composer to get this piece as well as other pieces published by a major publishing company. In 1996, this piece was actually recorded again, this time by the guitarist Christopher Parkening for his CD Angel's Glory with the legendary Kathleen Battle. This piece was actually the only solo guitar piece on the whole entire record, and it landed dead in the middle of the CD that was entirely guitar and voice duets. Now, a little backstory that I heard. So when Christopher Parkening was recording this piece, it's said that he needed to fill a little bit more time on the record. Not enough to include a full-on brand new piece, but something that might be only 1 to 2 minutes long. Now, as far as I know, he was already planning to have Sunburst on the record. So what he did was he asked Andrew York to write him an introduction. This introduction later became known as Jubilation. Most of the time they're performed together, but not always. Then in 1998, Andrew York re-recorded the whole entire piece under the title Sunburst on his CD Into Dark. Finally, the piece got even more recognition when it was included on the 2014 Grammy Winning record Play by guitarist Jason Vio. So now let's talk briefly about some of the compositional elements of the piece. And we're going to start, of course, with the introduction. So, like I mentioned, the introduction was written after Sunburst was already written, and because of this, you can hear some of the elements of Sunburst in the introduction, since the introduction's job is mostly going to be to foreshadow it and kind of just set the mood. Now, this introduction, just like many, is also serving the job as a prelude. So let's think back for a second, how preludes worked in the Baroque suite. Preludes back then were often improvised, and if they weren't, they were meant to sound improvised to help set the mood up for what we were going to expect in the upcoming dance movements. So because of this, the introduction is meant to have a very flow and free-like character to it. As a result, it's going to almost feel like there's no set tempo. The first thing that we notice as players is that it has a different tuning than we're used to. The high E and the low E are both being dropped down to D. Now, this tuning, even when done on classical guitar, it makes the whole guitar sound a bit brighter. And that helps it get closer to that steel string guitar sound. Later on in the piece, one section even does a bunch of hammer-ons and pull-offs back and forth, which to me really imitates the sound of a steel string guitar, but we'll get to that in a few. Now, the A section starts off with a very easy-to-grasp motive. And this motive is repeated over and over with only subtle variations done in between before we go back to the original motive that we heard before. Because of this, this is why I think it's so easy to grasp, even for people who don't really like classical guitar music. Now, the next section that comes up, I like to think of as the transitional section. This section doesn't really have a catchy melody, but it does have a very catchy rhythm. This rhythm looks and sounds very similar to a samba rhythm. A samba rhythm looks something like this, and the transition section rhythm looks something like this. Now, the next section up is the B section. So this section I like to think of finally when the piece is finally just calming down for a little bit. We just had this exciting A section, followed by a nice rhythmic transition, now into this nice calmer section where things are settling down for just a little bit. The melody is moved up higher, and because of that, it's much clearer, and rhythmically, there isn't anything crazy going on. Because it has this nice calm feeling, it helps set us up for the next section. So this section coming up is pretty much all hammer-ons and pull-offs. One thing that I like to compare it to is that guitar solo thing from the movie August Rush. I'm going to play it in just a second and let me know if you can hear some of the similarities between Sunburst and August Rush. So if you heard some similarities between the two, let me know in the comments down below, just because I'm curious if it's just me that thinks that. Finally, we arrive at the C section. Now this section I like to just call the impressive section. It's pretty much just all hammer-ons and pull-offs done at a relatively quick speed, and there isn't really any much accompaniment going on, so the listener's focus is purely just on these fast scale runs being done over and over and over, until it finally comes down and you get brought back to the A section, the part that everybody was drawn to in the first place. Before you know it, the piece is over. The thing that I think works really well about this piece is the form is simple, the parts inside the form are pretty easy to grasp, and the song isn't even that long. It's only about 4 minutes long or so, depending on how fast you play it, which is the length of most rock songs. Even non-guitarists and people who wouldn't really listen to classical guitar music are so interested in this piece. Alright, so those are some of my thoughts on the piece. If there's anything that you think I left out that I should have included, or if you just disagree with some of my opinions, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. I'm really curious to see what you guys think about this piece. If you liked what you saw and hopefully you learned something, go ahead and show some appreciation by giving this video a like down below, and even leaving a comment just saying what you liked about the video. If you're interested in learning even more about classical guitar, I would highly recommend to go check out some of my other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, consider subscribing to the channel, because one, it'll help you be notified about future videos, but two, because it will really help this channel grow to hopefully reach more people. If you're interested in where you can hear this whole entire thing, besides the recordings that I mentioned, go ahead and check out my video on the Guitar Salon International's page. I'll try to have it be in one of the channel pop-ups in a second, or if anything, it'll be down below in the description, and see me playing this piece on a 2004 Jose Ramirez guitar. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in the next video.